I think I'm a special one.
Fabregas, lovely ball threaded through. Costa, what a start!
Frank Lampard to win it. He's got it.
He's done it! The greatest night in the history of Chelsea Football Club.
Welcome back to Son of Chelsea. Daniel Childs here. Hope you're doing really well on this Tuesday. Today's show is a tactical analysis one, a closer look at the Arsenal game on Sunday at Stamford Bridge. We're going to be looking at Marc Cucurella, his performance, his brilliant performance against Bukayo Saka. Why was it so good? Also the performance of Wesley Fofana, which hopefully for the defender is a turning point this season at Chelsea. If you like the sound of that, hit that like button, give me your thoughts down in the comments below, share this video and podcast around with friends to get more people involved in the community, and you can follow Son of Chelsea across the socials, X, Instagram, TikTok, all of that good stuff. But let's jump into it, and we're going to firstly look at Marc Cucurella and then we'll move on to Wesley Fofana. Now, I wasn't surprised that firstly Cucurella came back into the side, because I think the conversation we've been having in recent weeks in terms of form, of gusto, of James playing at left back, and not really feeling like the right fit, I felt that Cucurella would naturally come back into the Premier League side, but also specifically because he was going up against Bukayo Saka, who in the same fixture last year at Stamford Bridge had a really good performance. And I guess in a lot of ways this performance by Marc Cucurella is not out of the ordinary based on last year, but it's also very much consistent with the transformation we've seen of this player over the last 6 months, you know, stretching back to the end of last season, his performances with his national team at the Euros, and of course moving into this season where he's gained more respect from Chelsea fans, and I think rightly so. Just a broad stat of the game that speaks to how brilliant Bukayo Saka is and how impactful he is for Arsenal. Before Sunday's game, Saka had either scored or assisted in his last 3 at Stamford Bridge. So even in the game last year, where Cucurella had mainly done a decent job, he did still impact the game in the second half. Then he came up against Marc Cucurella, who not only ended that streak at Stamford Bridge, but wasn't dribbled past once on Sunday. So a brilliant all-round performance. He really shut down Bukayo Saka in a big way, and that is not something easy to do. Eventually, Saka kind of limped off the pitch with an injury after a collision late in the game. One of the things that I think Cucurella does really well, especially against a player like Saka, but I've seen him do it against other wide players as well, especially when there's a real wide threat that Chelsea are concerned about. He stays really close to them, really tight to them. It's clearly an instruction, I think, probably from Maresca, but also from previous coaches, and he does it really well of kind of being that shadow for the player, of kind of sticking to them, really being a pest, really being an irritating player, and really trying to unsettle that wide player, because Saka is good enough that he does have the technical quality and the movement and speed and trickery to get past a lot of players. Like at times in this game, it wasn't just Cucurella. Chelsea needed, and Cucurella needed the help of Neto, sometimes Levi Colwill moving over to that left side from his centre-back position to help him out, to kind of crowd out Bukayo Saka. That's what you need against good players. But it's really the way he is so touch tight to him, doesn't allow him any room to breathe. And that really, I think, unsettled Saka during the course of the game, because it's quite clear that Arsenal, from a creative point of view, are looking to get that ball out to Saka on a number of occasions. Early one-on-one, this is great 1v1 defending, proof of how it was impossible for Saka to dribble past Cucurella, stays tight with him, forces him onto his left foot, which is, you know, a good area for Bukayo Saka. But, you know, the angle was tight, he blocks it. It gets away. This is a cross-field ball from Declan Rice. This is kind of a trademark move from Arsenal. They look to get it out wide, especially Bukayo Saka 1v1 against his fullback. But again here, Cucurella anticipates it. His positioning is good, and he heads the ball away. I also think, you know, it's notable that even pressing beyond the halfway line, very much following Saka in those moments, a ball from Ben White, Arsenal were looking to build up, and there is Cucurella to intercept. Brilliant challenge, and it gets Chelsea back in possession, looking to attack. Even against Kai Havertz, another example here of Cucurella spotting the moment, spotting the danger, being alert, being proactive, pushing right up to the centre of the pitch and winning the ball back cleanly again. This is something that Cucurella has, I think, mastered in recent months. There is an erratic side to his game, and I think when we saw it with like Antonio Rudiger, right? I know it's a weird comparison, but Rudiger, I remember in his early period of his Chelsea career, was a really proactive defender, but he would miss time challenges, and when it would go wrong, it would look really wrong, and he'd be out of position, and teams would sort of isolate Chelsea and get in behind them. I think Cucurella earlier in his Chelsea career was a lot like that. He was mistiming things, his confidence wasn't there, maybe his judgment and chemistry with his teammates wasn't there, and of course there was a lot in that first Chelsea season that went wrong for him, like a lot of players. But I feel like he's really begun to measure that timing a lot more. It's become a lot more precise, and he has a lot more confidence moving infield as well, in and out of possession. I think that really helps him. It just seemed to unsettle Saka so many times throughout the course of the game, and I think anytime Saka wanted a bit of breathing room, even in his own half, wasn't there, and also prevented any chance for Arsenal to hit us on a dangerous transition, which I think is a big part of their game, especially if maybe they're struggling to dominate the ball, and that continued in the second half. So I think for Cucurella, huge game for him. I think it says a lot that in a game of this nature, you aren't looking at Ben Chilwell, you aren't looking at Renato Vega. Cucurella is very much proving to be a nuisance for opposing teams, and it's nice that he's carried on that good form from last season. It's nice that that hasn't deteriorated at all. And I think that his kind of stock is probably the highest it's been at Chelsea, which is really nice to see, and probably shows you that the quality of player. The proof as well, these are cases where Cucurella, I think, is an example, right? It isn't always the case, but Cucurella is an example that you shouldn't always write off players. I was guilty of that with Cucurella about a year ago. You couldn't really see the need for him to remain at Chelsea, but because his form and development in a number of areas means he's going to remain at Chelsea and will be a starting player. The other player who got a lot of praise, and I think rightly so, and I think is maybe a defining afternoon for this player, is Wesley Fofana. CFC Central saying after the game, watching the game back, and can say it with full assurance now, that it was Wesley Fofana's best game in a Chelsea shirt, was oozing confidence on the ball too, which was great to see. In terms of numbers from the game, he registered more clearances and blocked more crosses than any other player for either Chelsea or Arsenal. Now, I think the broader view on Wesley Fofana this year is he has been off it. He hasn't quite reached the good form we saw in his first season that was still impacted by injury. I distinctly remember some really good performances before the injury, right after he signed for Chelsea, for Tuchel and also for Graham Potter. And then also when he came back after that injury in what was a really bad season for Chelsea, but I thought he showed some good things. And it probably is the fact that he hasn't played football for a year. Maybe it's the instructions of a new head coach. Maybe it's just getting more confident with his body again. I mean, this is something that maybe we as fans don't appreciate enough. When a player is out for that long period of time, it isn't like when you play Football Manager or FIFA. These are not players that can just be plugged straight back into your team and they're going to start playing because their attributes are the same. These are human beings who have, confidence issues, maybe have a sense of fear, maybe from Wesley Fofana. He's still also been suffering from knee pain this season. So he's been playing through that pain and trying to get his confidence and form back for Chelsea. This was a dominant performance when Chelsea needed him to perform in this way most. Of course, it didn't lead to a win, but it was still a brilliant performance. I think one of the things about this performance, when you actually look back at it was kind of the all-round package, and I think Central is absolutely right when he talks about this. It was kind of the all-round package of what Fofana was advertised as when we signed him, and why I was excited to see him sign for Chelsea back in 2022. Is a variety of things. His speed, his recovery, also his ability to move with the ball and become a threat in the final third, because he has the speed and movement that not many players in his position can, provide. The first is, these recovery runs that maybe just a sign of how much more confident he's coming week on week with those minutes he's getting under Maresca. Here, Timber running forward, Fofana gets there in front of him. Nice use of his speed there and confidence. Also, a bit like Cucurella, his intensity off the ball and kind of tracking players and having the confidence to go really tight with players, even if he's kind of slightly out of position here with Declan Rice looking to go down the wing, and he has the confidence on the right side to move wider and to be proactive, which I think is a nice sign of Fofana, and why I just think generally he was a type of defender Chelsea needed, especially once they lost Antonio Rudiger. But then also there were moments in that first half and second half when I think Chelsea, because Arsenal were defensively almost perfect against Chelsea on Sunday, there were difficult times for Chelsea to try and build up and to get the ball to their most dangerous players and to create overloads. So it is a bit of a risk, but I think Fofana maybe gauged and Chelsea gauged that they need an extra player and ways to break down Arsenal a little bit more. And this moment in the first half, 28 minutes gone, he receives the ball, and it's a little bit of danger here because Arsenal are quite compact, or at least have a block of players in and around the ball that could, see Chelsea really hurt here if Fofana doesn't get this right. If he is trying to move the ball forward, if he loses the ball here, Arsenal could be in business really against Chelsea's defence, especially when you look at defensively there. Fofana, if he loses the ball, is potentially Havertz one-on-one with Levi Colwill and the players as well on the other side sort of covering. But then he, with one touch and his speed and movement, his acceleration with the ball, gets past all of them, moves Chelsea up the pitch, completely changes the tempo of that move. You know, suddenly Chelsea are in an area when they're looking to get forward, looking to cut out a load of Arsenal players and move up the pitch. And he plays a 1-2, even going beyond the ball, where Madueke plays the ball to him. Unfortunately, Fofana's execution is pretty poor here, and I think that is something that maybe Maresca and Fofana need to work on, because if in these type of situations he's going to move into kind of a wing back / right back, or just kind of overlapping centre back, his delivery has to be a lot better. But I like the movement, I like the idea, and especially when you're coming up against a defence that did cover Chelsea very well, did kind of nullify a lot of our biggest threats. Trying to find alternative ways to get up the pitch and to create space for others, I think is really positive to see. And then also another part of his game, Arsenal playing direct against Chelsea, looking for the aerial threat. I mean, I sort of chuckle because I don't think Kai Havertz is that amazing in the air, but I think Fofana absolutely dominated Kai Havertz, especially as the game went on. And I loved the little word he had to Kai Havertz in the second half, like a lot of Chelsea players. Another example here, David Raya playing the ball directly beyond the midfield, trying to get the ball up to Kai Havertz. Again, tussle with Havertz. Havertz is on the floor, Fofana standing strong. Kind of proof of how dominant he was in interceptions and aerial duels, and could have even scored a big goal for Chelsea in the game early on in the second half. A ball win from Noni Madueke, drifting around the back of William Saliba, gets his right foot to it, kind of leaning. Saliba does well to kind of put him off, to be honest, and it just goes over the bar, but nearly a huge moment for Fofana in this game for Chelsea. And then just another example here of him progressing the ball, moving up with it from the right side into kind of that similar area. This time, rather than looking out wide to, say, Pedro Neto to play a 1-2, he gets taken out and Chelsea win a free kick. But I think it's great because I do have concerns about that central defence in the long term, because it's really who goes behind Colwill and Fofana. And I think the frustrating thing was, as some people noted as well, it didn't cost Chelsea in the game, but it was slightly frustrating that Fofana improves, but Colwell's performance, especially on the ball, wasn't as good, and that I think hurt Chelsea. It's just, can we get both of them to play well together in one game? Because I think once Chelsea do that, and I think once both of them click at the same time, I think we have a really solid first choice back two there. I think they're good on the ball. I think they add nice movement, good decision making, also a bit of aerial prowess and dominance, just all around what you'd want a kind of modern centre-back pairing to be. I think Fofana and Colwill at the start of the year, even last year, I think a lot of people looked at that as the long-term back two for Chelsea. It's just whether both of them can maintain form and become a more dominant centre-back pairing. We're going to look a little bit more in depth of why Chelsea are conceding some goals so cheaply. It's more of a structural, maybe tactical approach from Enzo Maresca and structure problem that needs to be resolved. We'll be looking at that later in the week. But I think for just in terms of performances, coming up against a team like Arsenal, even with some of their attacking struggles in recent week, you've also got to factor in how much Chelsea limited Arsenal at set pieces, because Chelsea did give away a few set pieces, corners, some indirect free kicks as well. Arsenal have used that to their advantage. They are one of the best set-piece teams, not only in the Premier League, but in European football. And the fact that they were so nullified there, I think we have to give the team credit. And, you know, even maybe from an attacking point of view, I don't think at set-pieces we've been that good. And that may still be a problem of kind of a lack of aerial threat and kind of dominance, especially in attack. Defensively, and we talked about this with Cueva coming in from Brentford, that's maybe where you're seeing an improvement, because that is an area that has won Arsenal a lot of tight games, and Chelsea absolutely stopped Arsenal getting any joy from set pieces. And I think defensively, Chelsea deserve credit, and the players deserve credit for that as well. So those are my thoughts today. Let me know yours and everything I discussed in the comments below. Follow across the socials. Stay tuned for more Chelsea content across the international break, and I will see you again very soon. All the best.